Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary versus the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
Going for the gravelly now.
Yeah.
Tom Waits is in the house.
Oh, don't even...
Dennis Ling.
God, once he starts on that Tom Waits impression.
Sorry. I was pretty... I kept it down on Down by Law.
I was shocked at how little you were doing, actually.
Yeah.
We have a guest this week. Yes. As you noticed, there was a third voice.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hopefully you're noticing that.
Yeah.
This is actually a new recording setup for us. So.
Well, that's true. We are not recording in our usual studio. We are using a Zoom recorder, so...
We're out in the field.
And by the field, we mean our dining room.
Yeah.
Instead of the office. So, but yeah, so we have a guest this week. This is our good friend, Kate Eckert. God, how long have I known you?
23 years?
Yeah, the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1999, I think that's when we met.
It definitely was. So, yes, Kate is one of my oldest friends. And they are here because, well, they are one of my oldest friends. 2, they are...
I demanded to be on the show.
They demanded to be on the show.
How do I get on your show?
3, they are a librarian in the Philadelphia Free Library System, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And 4, they lived in Japan. And this week, our movie is the Japanese comedy Tampopo, which I have not seen, obviously, ergo the episode. Kate has not seen. Dennis has not seen.
Nope.
Oh.
But importantly, there used to be a noodle place in Philadelphia called Tampopo, and they had good food, and I miss it.
Where was it exactly in Philly? I remember seeing
It was
the
off Rittenhouse
sign.
Square.
Yeah, it was at 20. It was on 23rd or 22nd Street.
Yeah, like just north of Walnut, I'd say. Or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe there may be another one in West Philly that did not close down, but don't quote me on that. I'm sure I
Too
could've-
late, you're on record.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's one. There might be one at 43rd and Spruce, but I did not do any research before this. So
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm not entirely sure how many reasons I just gave, but that is why Kate is here. So say hello, Kate.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. I went to the restaurant Tampopo during college after my visual anthropology of modern Japan class. We would wander over there and drink some beers and eat some cheap Japanese food, and it was a good memory. So I'm looking forward to the movie.
Yep. Because I believe it is, set in a restaurant, I think. It is set in a restaurant. Tampopo is the Japanese name for the dandelion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know more than that, although last week I made dandelion wine. So it all comes together.
Is it ready?
No.
Okay.
It has another week or so to ferment, and then I have to rack it, and then I have to let it sit for like a year. Yeah.
Definitely not ready.
No, not even close. I'm getting back into brewing, so,
Cool.
It's going to be fun. It all just seems to be pointing to, yes, let's do this movie. I think it's on the Criterion channel. If you are listening to this and you have not watched the film yet, go and watch it. I assume it'll still be available. Of course, we're recording this on April 30th, and you know how movies will leave a service at the end of a month. So who knows what you're going to end up with? I don't know. I could have just screwed you guys.
Rent it from your library.
Yes.
There you go.
Speaking of libraries, speak to us about libraries, if you would.
Well, I've been a librarian for 14 years. I did the math recently, and I was like, that's a long time.
That's great.
Yeah. I have not done anything else in my life for 14 years, so that was pretty impressive to me. I've been with the Free Library for over 10 years. I managed the children's department at the Central Library on the Parkway during the height of the pandemic, and I'm back in the branches now at a branch in Point Breeze, South Philadelphia.
That must have been really hard.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on site June 2020. So we closed down for 2 months, isolated, and then we had to go back. And we really didn't know. We didn't have vaccines. We didn't really know much about transmission at that time. So it was pretty stressful. And being in charge of everyone's health and well-being as the supervisor was really challenging.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, the library is really struggling. The branch I'm working at currently is only open 12 hours a week because of our low staff.
Yeah.
No branches in Philly are open on Saturdays, which is really a huge disservice to families in Philadelphia. So hopefully these things change soon.
Could you talk a little bit about libraries and film? As you pointed out, you can rent movies at the library.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't take advantage of that enough. And there's also services like Canopy.
I have news for you.
Oh, boy.
Unfortunately, the free library no longer supports Canopy. When I was first in library school, they said digitize everything and it'll be cheaper. It's actually such a huge fat lie.
Yeah.
Licenses are highway robbery.
Yeah.
And basically the free library had to pay for each use that someone watched
Oh, God.
or used Hoopla and Canopy. So it was quite expensive. Sometimes like $4 or $5 per use.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. We had to drop it during the height of the pandemic because of the budget. It was very expensive, and we wanted to prioritize more materials going to the branches instead of streaming. We used to have an extensive film collection virtually, but you can still get DVDs from the library. The Free Library of Philadelphia, we carry a lot of hard to find, unusual titles. So if you want to watch Tampopo, I know the library carries it. You can put it on hold, have it sent to your local branch. It's a great service.
Yeah.
It might take a bit of time because we're severely understaffed.
Yeah.
So
I'm just glad that the library does this. Back, when we were young, you could go to like TLA Video. There are a lot of places you could get all kinds of movies. And nowadays, the catalog is not as readily available as it used to be because, there are streaming services out there, but things disappear all the time. There are a lot of streaming services, and you can't afford to be subscribed to them all the time. And, they don't have the catalog that brick and mortar places always had. So the fact that the library has these films readily available and it's free, this is all part of having a civilization, having a society, is being able to go into a place and borrow and bring it back,
Yeah. DVDs are still used quite often in the library because most people can't afford a streaming service. They're all very expensive.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's more and more popping up. And
Absolutely. And then you need to have the internet. So it's like, okay, well, that's a whole lot of money right there.
Yep.
So we're really pleased to keep the DVDs. It's great to bring your kids to the library because it's like you can take them shopping, but it's actually not costing you anything. So
Exactly.
it's like, pick out whatever you want. That's part of the fun for me, is seeing the children enjoy media and also enjoy story time. But yeah, rent Tampopo from your local library.
Exactly. All I know is it is a comedy set in a restaurant in Japan. I think it came out in 1985. So it's early 80s Japan. So this is Japan during when they were in their like economic boom. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'd be curious as to what that image of Japan is. I'm very curious to see it from the other side. Does this movie like kind of reflect anything about like normal life in Japan during what was for them like a real boom time, before they had started their lost decade that I don't know that they ever have really fully gotten out of. And that, we're starting to experience on our own here. So, film, what do you think might happen in it? Do you think it's like a romantic comedy? Do you think it's like a comedy of errors? What do you think it is?
I think it's about a woman who works in a noodle shop and falls in love with some dude who comes to the noodle shop. That's my guess.
Okay. Yeah. You know more about it than I do then.
I think that's my guess. I don't really know much about it.
How much do you think the food will be
I hope
featured?
there's so much food.
I know there's Babette's Feast, which you haven't seen yet.
No, I have not.
That has a very detailed feast at the end.
I mean, it literally is called Babette's Feast.
Is it a sexual thing or?
I don't remember. I just remember the food. So it was like, whoa, oof. But
Was it better or worse than all of the food in The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover?
better. I mean, food wise, I won't say it's a better film, but it's
Because I remember how that film ends.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies.
It's great.
Yeah.
But so another great cooking film is Goodfellas.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about food lately, so I'm kind of excited to watch a movie about food.
So, by the way, listeners, please suggest.
We're about to eat dinner. I'm so hungry
I'm
right
very
now.
hungry right now.
But please suggest food-based movies too. I'm curious.
Yeah.
The other ones.
That's a great idea. Yeah, if any listeners have some food-based films that they think we should see, throw them our way. But Babette's Feast is already on the list because I've never seen it. So with all of that said, and with my stomach rumbling, because we're going to order some sushi and then watch the movie, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Yep.
I did pretty well in school. Okay. No. Let me hear me out.
All
Hear
right.
me out. I did go to college, believe it or not. I graduated summa cum laude even. So I'm not a dummy. I am in certain ways, but I'm not, I know how to read a text sometimes. But I'm terrible at psychology. I think I got a C, and I tried really hard. I'm not very good at psychology, which is ironic because I've been seeing therapists off and on since I was 8 years old. Okay, so I'm not good at psychology, but I know an oral fixation when I see one. And this movie,
It wasn't subtle.
no, but that's kind of what's great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just embraces it. I don't think I've had this much fun in just experiencing a film since we watched Slacker.
Yeah.
And it's not dissimilar to Slacker, actually. I will watch it again. It was so. I'm really hungry right now. Should we get some ramen because I'm done. I mean, I know we ate dinner between the first recording and the second, but I don't know, man.
Noodles. We didn't have noodles.
We didn't have noodles. What were we thinking?
Although that what was it, the Korean?
Oh, the Korean barbecue?
Yeah,
Man, that
that
looked
looked good,
good.
too.
So many delicious cuisines represented in this movie.
Oh, God, yeah.
Spaghetti.
The French restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, person who went to Japan, what'd you think of the movie?
It hit home for me because the first thing I did when I got to Tokyo was eat in a ramen shop. I didn't go to my apartment. We went right to eat some food, and
Did you caress the pork and tell it you were sorry?
I did not know the way of the proper way to eat ramen when I arrived. But I remember needing a pair of chopsticks and forgetting how to say it in Japanese, and I started to cry.
Oh, no.
Because I was like jet lagged and
Yeah.
I was hungry and I just wanted to eat my ramen, but I couldn't without chopsticks. I was like, I forget how to say chopsticks in Japanese. I had taken Japanese in college, but I wasn't prepared,
Yeah.
No.
with all that jet lag and whatnot.
How could you be, really?
No, we couldn't. They were used to it. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
we know you're an American. It's fine. You can get away with this.
I was going to say, you're pretty white.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the plot of this film is very, very simple. You made a very good observation that I think is relevant, and you said it was very much the Seven Samurai.
Yes. I haven't seen it in a long time, but the plot is there's a town that needs to be protected. They hire this Ronin, which means masterless samurai, and he recruits a whole team to protect the town, and the townspeople pay them in food.
Right.
And it didn't really occur to me that that's what was going on until I saw all of the men sitting at the counter, and they each had their own like specialty thing that they did or brought to the table, and then I was like, this is like the Seven Samurai.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. It definitely takes from the Seven Samurai. It also absolutely takes from American westerns, especially like John Ford films. What did they jokingly call this? A ramen western?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although we kept mentioning
Oddly
The
enough,
Quiet Man.
not a western. We kept thinking about a different John Ford movie, The Quiet Man. Because
But he was so John Wayne-like, the lead guy.
yes, the lead guy is
Goro.
Goro. The character Goro is definitely supposed to be a John Wayne type, or
Crocodile Dundee.
well, yeah, he does have like that. Yeah, he does have kind of. It is the 80s.
Yes.
But no, there's something about this that also definitely reminds me of The Quiet Man. You know, he has this, you know, kind of a romance, although it never in this film, consummates. But he has a rivalry with this other character, Pisikin, who reminds me a lot of Victor McLaglen in The Quiet Man, and just in general. There's something because he's like kind of like a big, beefy guy who they get into like 2 fights in this movie, and the second fight is very much modeled, I think, on the climax, the ultimate fight in The Quiet Man. Especially when they both sort of call off the fight and go into the noodle shop, which is definitely reminds us of when they walk into the pub during the fight in The Quiet Man. There's definitely a sense of that. Although this is a bit kinder and gentler than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely you can feel.
But it has the
there's
same.
not only-
It has the same vibe of like fighting to gain respect or friendship, that
yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
Which I think the Japanese like the culture seems to be. Yeah, that's how you do it.
yeah.
Very masculine, sort of hierarchical.
And there's definitely things in this movie that are playing with those, you know, masculine and higher. Like the plot is very simple. It's as Kate said, there is a noodle shop run by this woman whose name is Tampopo. The film is named for the woman who runs this noodle shop. She is a young widow with a son, and the food is terrible apparently. And
Yeah, and we first learned that when Goro first sits down, he says like, "I got a bad feeling about this. The noodles aren't boiling."
I gotta admit, every time I see I've got a bad feeling about this, I can't not think of Star Wars. And I do wonder if that was intentionally evoking Star Wars.
1985.
1985,
Yeah. Right.
they're yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It feels like
because this dude could have been Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You know, if this was a Western movie, like Goro might have been Harrison Ford in Witness or something.
Yeah,
You know, I'm just saying.
but it feels like this movie borrows from everything.
Oh yes. Oh no, exactly.
There's a a Charlie Chaplin moment. There's
Yep.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a Bertolucci-esque sex sequence.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah, there's sex in this
Movie. There is some surprising sex in this, which we will get
prizes.
to. We will definitely get to. So this woman has this noodle shop and her food is terrible, and Goro decides to help this woman essentially become a good ramen chef, and recruits all of these other guys to help her out.
And she helped him first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the film opens in a very fun way where we break the fourth wall immediately.
Yeah, it's basically Strange Brew yet again.
Yeah, a little bit. So that the movie opens acknowledging that it's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We are in a theater and we have a young gangster and his mall sitting down to the front row of the movie theater and being served by waiters. And
I think that's just his henchmen, but they have food.
are they supposed to be his henchmen? I thought they were
because they
waiters.
immediately like get behind him, and then they're. But it's funny. It's now we're used to seeing that with like silence your cell phones before movies.
Yeah.
and this is essentially the same thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is.
But really hardcore.
Yeah. So this gangster is being served this like kind of little meal before the film, but his whole point is get all of your opening of your packages and everything out now, because otherwise do not disturb everybody watching this film. It is obnoxious and I will kill you if you don't do it now. So I appreciate opening a film that way, and I wish more films would open that way. If your cell phone goes off, or if like one time what were we watching, like the Muppets or something, and we went to the movie theater and this guy was just sitting there with his cell phone at like head level,
Oh, no.
looking at
And
stuff.
it was like a bright white screen.
Bright white
that was, like,
screen, and
lighting up the whole room.
I mean, look, yes, I understand. it was like three adults going to see a movie for children. I don't want to say we're in the wrong here, but you know, we're not the intended audience.
Who was acting like the child? Though?
But who is acting like the child here? Not the three adults, but the other adult with children, and it was very obnoxious. So I kind of wish that our young Yakuza guy was there
in the linen pants.
Oh God, yes. So that's how the film opens. Essentially, you know, open up your chips bag now or else, and then the film begins. This is a nested narrative, which I love a nested narrative. And then you start with what seems to be the story of a young man and his sensei, and the sensei is teaching him how to eat ramen, and they go through this whole ritualized description of how to eat ramen, and you know, to the point of absurdity where you know you don't even get to eat the pork right away. You have to like lovingly caress it and then put it aside and dunk it under the broth, and you know it's all this very elaborate.
It's like tea ceremony ritual.
Yes, exactly. It is supposed to be like a tea ritual. Yeah. And then it turns out that this is actually Goro's young sidekick reading a book to him while they are driving Goro's truck, because Goro is a truck driver, and the sidekick is Ken Watanabe.
Yeah,
he is young here, man. I did not know that was him until we were looking at the credits.
Young mod Ken Watanabe.
Yeah. He is, man. I did not recognize him at all. But yeah, so he has a not like he's not the main character, but he is in a lot of the film. But yeah, he is very young here. And so it turns out that he is reading this book and kind of making fun of it, but it makes them very hungry, which of course is sort of the effect that the film has on the viewer. So
absolutely.
And so as they're driving one rainy night, they stop at a noodle shop just along the highway. You know, same thing as like stopping at a truck stop, and they go in to have ramen, and they can tell right away, as Dennis pointed out, they have a bad feeling about this because the noodles are just terrible. Like it's bad ramen. Like nothing. Like the broth is thin and it's not very good, and the noodles aren't, you know, cooked right, and just like nothing about it is right. But there's just something very sympathetic about our young chef Tampopo. It's not just that, you know, she's, you know, a very, you know, aesthetically pleasing young woman. Like she's trying really hard.
She's very earnest.
She's very earnest. Mm-hmm. She just wants to be a good chef, and she wants to take care of her son, who is constantly being bullied by these kids. In fact, before we even get into the noodle shop, we see the kid on the ground being beaten up by his schoolmates, who are all holding umbrellas the whole time, which is kind of a nice detail where, you know, it's like, yeah, we're beating up a kid in the rain, but we want to try to be dry. Goro decides to help her out, but he, of course, has this rival in Pesican is a contractor, and, you know, the idea is that if she can get her food up to standard, he will actually remodel the noodle shop so that it's like a very bright and welcoming place for people to come to, because when they get there, it is shabby.
It looks like a sad closet.
It really does. I mean, it is like McGlinchey's on a bad night. It is Dirty Frank's at like 4 a.m.
Well, maybe not that bad. I mean,
they make a deal. Goro is going to help her. Goro? Man, thank you. No. I'm glad. No. I feel terrible. I'm missaying his name.
It's okay.
So Goro offers to help her, and we get all these different training sequences. We get a little Rocky montage. So, you know, obviously as a Philadelphian, I greatly appreciated that. You know, she's in the gray sweats and everything, running like through the city. They don't take her up whatever the equivalent of the art museum is, but, you know, I'll take it.
That's where it first starts to diverge into...
Yes, into all these vignettes.
Yeah. And like I was saying, it's kind of like Kentucky Fried Movie suddenly. It's just sketches for a while.
Because it'll veer off into all of these other little storylines that don't necessarily have anything to do with the film overall, but they're all about food and about culture. And, you know, I brought up Slacker earlier, and it's a little bit like Slacker. Sometimes there will be a passing of the baton from one story into the next. There is a group of businessmen who go into a fancy French restaurant. Then it's all about sort of the power play of the head guy orders this very kind of bland, you know, soul fish and like the consomme, no salad, and a beer. And so then all of his underlings feel they have to order the same food, except for this one, the youngest guy there, who just decides that he's going to order this incredibly elaborate French meal.
It's on the boss, you know?
Hey, exactly. And, meanwhile, his like immediate supervisor is like trying to kick him under the table. It's like, what are you doing? I gotta admit, I've been that dumb kid.
Same.
I have absolutely been that dumb kid. This is why I'm, 43 and still working the job that I am. I do not know how to play politics. We get a vignette about an old woman who goes to a little grocery store and has to squeeze all of the food in a terrible way.
That was probably the most upsetting part of the film.
Yeah. Oh man, boy, what she did to that brie and that peach. I haven't seen a peach abused that bad since Call Me by Your Name.
That peach looked really sexual. It looked extremely sexual.
And it happened right after what you thought was going to be a sex scene between Guru and Tampopo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was after,
because like they just came back from a date, and it seems like, and he's like, oh, that's right, he's taking a bath and sees her underwear, and then she touches his underwear, and then immediately goes to her squeezing that peach.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's like there's a budding romance, but it never like gets consummated, because they're definitely playing on these kind of Western tropes of like he's the loner who blows into town, but it's all very chaste.
Yeah, he's basically Harmonica from Once Upon a Time in the West.
Okay. Yeah.
Just, like I can't do that because I'm too hard.
It's like an honor thing.
Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, so I just, when watching that one sequence of the old woman squeezing the food, there is a grocery store in our old neighborhood called Klein's that was on the bottom floor of a large apartment building. And it's still there. And it's just a small independent grocery store. But I just kept picturing all the old women who would go in there. And I'm just like, oh, I've definitely seen this old woman. This is just an extreme version of a type of old woman that I have definitely fought over bagels and pickles with.
All around the world, there are old women that are abusing food.
Legions of them.
Yes. We get a couple of vignettes with the Yakuza guy who greets us in the beginning of the film. One of the vignettes is him and his mall start to have a meal that basically becomes sex. So it's like food as foreplay and food as, I don't know, interplay. I mean, how else would you put it? Like
sensuality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's a sequence where he's putting like salt and lemon juice on her nipple. I guess at one point there's cream on there. There's all sorts. There's a whole thing with an egg. Now here's so it's like, and it's all like kind of gorgeously lit and very golden looking, and it's
very Italian.
It's very much like a Bertolucci sort of scene. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: this is when our food showed up. I had to pause the movie.
It was when the honey was dripping between somebody's mouth, lips, and fingers.
Yes, yeah. It looked. Yeah.
We're having a great time as far as he knows.
Yeah. It's another vignette is him meeting what I assume was the girlfriend in like a past moment. We don't really know.
It's very unclear.
Yeah. It's almost like this dreamlike, memory sequence of him at the shore seeing these young women who are fishing for oysters. And you had mentioned something about that.
Yeah, there's it's kind of hazy, but there's a tradition of women doing deep sea diving fishing because they can hold their breath longer, or they're warmer under the water, and they do pearls, they do oysters, and it's just like a tradition. There's probably a word, but I don't remember.
Well, it's like there's a Steinbeck story, The Pearl Diver.
Pearl Divers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's them.
So we have this whole thing with him and her and raw oysters, and I used to like raw oysters. I can't eat them anymore because I've been sick twice, and I wonder if I have an allergy. Life is full of large tragedies like mine.
Yeah. Getting old is weird.
It is very weird. So yeah, and we have another sequence later where he is shot by somebody, though we don't really know who, and so there's this entire like kind of thread through the movie of this young gangster and like his whole life and his relationship with food and sex.
And in the beginning, he talks about how when you die, you close your eyes and you have this one last movie.
Yeah.
Like he's setting up this whole last scene where
Yeah.
he gets shot down. And then when he dies, he talks about how like he always wanted to hunt a boar with his girlfriend.
Right.
And he dies next to like this toy, I think, like some kind of
Pig?
kid's pig
Yeah.
or something. But
There's a lot of pork and pigs and whatnot.
and pig heads.
And pig heads. This is not a kosher film.
Before I went to Japan, I was like, oh, I'll go to Japan. I'll eat vegetarian. It'll be easy. I had no idea that pork was in literally everything I ate everywhere. It is a thing.
Yeah, it totally is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have these sorts of, like, as I said, vignettes kind of, you know, weaving through the film. But as our story unfolds of Tampopo training in becoming a great chef.
Yeah, a lot of the movie is different tricks to learn other chefs' secrets.
Where, you know, there's an entire thing where they go to a homeless community where everyone there is apparently a great chef. It's sort of movie absurdism, but at the same time...
They're all gourmands.
They're all gourmands. Yeah. And you have this whole sequence where her son, I guess it was, demands rice and eggs.
Omelet rice.
Omelet rice. Mm-hmm. So this one guy takes him, like they break into, I don't know, a warehouse or something.
Yeah.
And he makes the omelet rice, which is like rice and ketchup and eggs. And it, first of all, it looked really good. Second of all, like the whole thing was meant as like an homage to Charlie Chaplin films, especially like The Kid or things like that. So which is really cool, you know.
You know what? Seeing all those homeless guys like kneeling and dirty faced and all that stuff, it actually reminded me of The Hobbit.
Oh
You
no,
know,
I
like,
do know what you mean.
Just how like, you know, like these dirty, grubby, you know, but like, you know, but all talented guys or something.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. No,
The
absolutely.
crew. Yeah.
Get their crew together. Yeah.
And I'm just saying The Hobbit. I know it's probably borrowing from other things, but
Well, okay, so yeah, I mean, The Hobbit is obviously borrowing from all sorts of stuff.
yeah.
I can't think of a Western writer who understands food as much as Tolkien.
I reread The Hobbit recently, and the
Yeah.
descriptions of all the cakes and all the courses that Bilbo brings out, it's extremely detailed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's the whole secret with Tolkien is that if you know, like the more you read it as you get older, it's like, oh, he really gets it's all the details that make the thing, and not so much the whole plot, which I think this movie would agree with.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what the film is. And, you know, over time, she learns how to become a good chef. And we have our 5 helpers who, so it's Goro, his sidekick Gun, the old man who was one of the homeless guys who is,
Sensei.
they just call
Sensei.
Sensei.
Yeah.
What else? There's the chauffeur who was, now where did he come? He was the chauffeur of the other guy who they saved from choking in a restaurant at one point.
Yeah, another sensei who they
Somehow rich guy, some rich
Yeah.
sensei.
Some rich guy who choked on.
Azuki bean noodles.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
had the red bean in the noodle.
Right.
Very chewy, looked like
and
it.
she saved him by getting a vacuum cleaner.
Shoving a
his
vacuum
mouth.
cleaner in his mouth, which was pretty great. So he's one of them, and then Pisikin, the contractor. So once they've all decided that she has made, you know, the best possible ramen, he goes and redoes the restaurant. The restaurant reopens, and she immediately is just swamped with customers. And because she is swamped with customers, Goro decides, well, my job here is done. And he leaves. It's very much, it's like the end of Shane.
Drives off into the sunset.
He drives off in his sunset. He gets in his truck and goes. Him and Gunn. And
then what happens?
well, that's fascinating. Again, as I started here, I said, you know, I know an oral fixation when I see one. The whole credit sequence is a woman in a park breastfeeding her kid. The lens is just slowly zooms in on the baby with their mouth on the nipple. And, you know, in Western society in the last, I don't know, probably 200 years, like that is considered shocking. I don't know if that's shocking or like perfectly normal in Japan, and I have no idea what cultural taboos or weirdness.
Nudity is not a big a deal
Right,
there.
right. So
Yeah.
this is not strange at all there. Here, I think only within like maybe the last 20 years, this is considered, not strange. And there are still people who find it like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you're breastfeeding in front of me. Like,
I got yelled at a bunch.
yeah. Whereas I've had several friends, breastfeed in front of me, and I could care less, because it's food. What do I care?
It was showing the first relationship with
Yes,
Exactly.
But
Right.
that's exactly where I'm going
Right.
with this.
Yeah.
To end the film with a body's first relationship with food and nourishment as this sort of like very tender, comforting scene is a really beautiful way to end the film.
But there was also before then there was a couple death scenes.
Oh yeah,
Not just the gangster, but also like a woman working herself to
That's
death.
true.
Oh, yeah.
Making it the last meal.
But yeah, so that is the end of the film, and that is, I think, a good summation of really what the movie is actually about. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, it's a noodle western about the stranger who comes into town and helps out the woman and her son and helps her get on her feet with a restaurant. But it's really about people's relationship with food, and food as comfort, food as sensuality, food as power play, food as community. It's really about how we have these relationships with food and exploring
Intimacy, really.
yeah and the depth of our most basic need. Even when we don't have shelter, you can get by sometimes without shelter, but you always need food. I thought it was fantastic. And it's
Very
a
enjoyable.
very funny movie. There are so many fun things in this, and if you're somebody who watches a lot of movies, you can sit there and kind of go, "Oh, I know what they're referencing. This is great." Yeah, man, I loved this movie. This was an absolute delight.
Yeah, one thing we didn't really talk about was how Tampopo is trying to enter a man's world.
Yeah.
And it is very, from my experience in Japan, it's pretty uncommon to see like female chefs or lady chefs.
Really? Okay.
It's usually men. Like home cooks are women,
Yeah.
but the chefs, professionals, are men.
I think that's probably still true
It's
here,
still
too.
true here too.
Yeah.
And it's even the older sensei says, "Oh, I didn't think women could be good ramen chefs, but you did it." She's blazing a trail.
Yeah, definitely. So that was Tampopo, starring. Oh man.
Do you want me to say the names?
Yeah, would you?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Starring who?
Starring Ken Watanabe as Gun. Oh, this is very small. It's very small. Tsutomu Yamazaki as Goro. Noboku Miyamoto as Tampopo. Koji Yakusho as the gangster in the white suit.
I liked him.
And Rikia Yasoka as Pisuken.
Yeah.
And let's see here.
Written and directed by.
Juzo Atami. And what else do I need to say?
And that's it, really.
I think this was his second film.
Yeah, he was more
okay.
of an actor, and this, he turned to directing, and so this was sort of like him turning to directing, apparently.
I'd like to see his other films.
Yeah, I would too. But thank you very much for reading all of that, because I don't know.
It's okay.
The vowels. It's the vowels that make me nervous. I'm like, oh, am I mispronouncing? Like, should there be a diphthong here? I don't know what I'm doing.
It's all good.
So thank you, Kate, for reading that for me. You can follow us on social media. We are Mary VS Movies on Twitter, and we are maryvsmovies@gmail.com. Please write to us with any comments, questions, complaints, or suggestions. We would love to hear from you. We are on all major platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, where you can rate and review us, which we would really appreciate. And we are on like Google Play and Stitcher, Spotify, all that stuff. Next week, we are back to coin flipping, and as listeners to the show know, when we do coin flipping, it is Dennis flipping a coin. When we do coin flipping, it is Dennis losing a coin.
Like maybe like 30% of the
No,
time.
no, it is not there. I've never seen you actually catch the coin.
I have catch the coin.
Wait a minute, that's not a coin. That's a SEPTA token.
Yeah, I've been
Is
saying-
there a heads or a tails on this thing? It's
There's
the same
a
on.
s-
Yeah,
there's
I
a
guess
SEPTA
it
is
is.
SEPTA
the
symbol.
SEPTA symbol is the heads.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. These are rare now.
Yeah.
They don't take these anymore. Don't lose that.
You can make it into some jewelry.
How am I gonna lose it?
You could have spent it on the bus. Wait, no. Okay, so Dennis is going to flip the coin, but here's the thing. As we said, he famously tends to lose the coin. So, friend of the show, former guest, and probably future guest come Halloween, Alana has sent us it's a hexagonal dice roller, and she gave it to us as a
I like this sticker.
place to put the coin, to kind of flip the coin in so that we don't lose it. So we're going to try and flip the coin. So here are our choices. We've been watching a lot of great movies lately. I mean, some real good films.
Yeah, might as well end that now.
Exactly. You know, Long Good Friday, great movie.
Yep.
Tampopo, great movie. Romancing the Stone,
Yeah.
what a delight.
That was fun.
So let's get to some trash.
Yep. And not John Waters trash.
No,
Just plain old trash.
Plain old trash.
absolute garbage. Our choices are The Cannonball Run, or
I don't think it's earned the in front of that.
No,
just,
I'm
just
pretty
Cannonball
sure-
Run is fine.
I'm pretty sure it is technically. If you look it up on IMDb, it's The Cannonball Run.
All right.
Or, and man, I am really hurting myself here.
Yeah, you are.
The Toy.
A toy.
So wrong.
Yes, The Toy, starring Richard Pryor and, yeah, Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
It is a famously bad film. So, like, Cannonball Run sounds like it's going to be a fun movie, but bad. And everything I've heard about The Toy is it is not a good movie. So,
There's some good jokes. I mean, yeah. But there's some...
It's so wrong in every
Yeah.
other way, though.
Yes.
Yes.
so Dennis,
All right.
let's flip that coin and find out what kind of trash we're going to see.
Ha! Caught.
Why didn't you just let it fall into the thing?
Because I want to see if I can catch it. All right, I'll flip it again.
Yeah, flip it again. Tails. You know what tails means?
I don't know.
Well, the second movie was
Oh, no.
The Toy.
Okay.
Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Well, so until next time,
Gochiso-sama deshita.
thank you.
Eh?
Thank you.